Welcome to Well Played Podcast, the show on all things playful and joyous in education. I'm your host, MrMatera, 6th grade author, teacher, and presenter. Just a reminder to sign up for the Hive Summit starting August 1st. That's free PD for educators. Go to hivesummit.org and sign up today. Today we have another new guest to the Well Played crew. It is Karsten. He is a pastor from Denmark who, rather exciting for me, chose to take my book and sort of apply these concepts into sort of Christian education and sort of like confirmation classes. And we're going to kind of dive in and hear his story and hear how it all went. So welcome, Karsten. If you want to give the Well Played community a brief introduction to yourself, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure. My name is Karsten, and I live in Denmark with my family, my wife, and 2 sons. And I'm a pastor in the Lutheran Church, the state church here in Denmark. And I've studied gamification for a couple of years now. But most of my friends and family see me as the creative type, so it's kind of natural for me. So yeah.
Nice. So being that creative person, you were kind of drawn to this ability to sort of like, I don't know, think outside the box and create outside the box with these experiences.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So, where did you start? I guess let's begin there with your gamification ideas.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, we went on a vacation to England. And my sons and I, we tried our first escape room, and yeah, that was awesome. I never done it before. It was so great. And after that experience, I said to my family, would it be possible to take that concept, doing an escape room, and put it in a church context? Could I build something for a local church or youth group, and so I sat down and I actually wrote 5 manuscripts, full manuscripts for escape rooms, and
wow.
the first 2 of them are actually what I call portable escape rooms, meaning that they actually have a handle, you can carry them. They're built with boxes, and so you take a full escape room and you compress it. You put it in like a small place, and you put a handle on it so you can carry it around, use it for youth groups and conferences and so on. So that was my beginning.
You, I think, are being pretty modest here, because I checked out your Facebook page, and like these boxes aren't just a box with a lock on it. I mean, these are pretty intricate boxes.
Yeah, well, it's the first one is actually a journey through the life of Christ. So you begin with his birth and end with his resurrection, and every box details something from his life. And the other one, it's put in a big suitcase. Because that one is about the Exodus and follows God's people on their way out of Egypt. So yeah, it's big projects. Yeah.
And how, when you started that and first introduced these sort of breakout boxes in your church setting, what was the original feel like? What was, I don't know, was it excitement? Was it surprise? Was it confusion?
It was excitement, because there are lots of escape rooms here in Denmark, and people have tried them. So the idea of using that in church was, well, I had newspaper people, I had journalists call me about it, so it even got in some local newspapers, because it is a new it is a new thing, and one thing that journalists want to write about is innovation. New ideas, and here in Denmark especially, what's happening in the church, new ideas. How do we get younger people to come to our churches? And so they saw that as, hey, wow, that's a great idea.
Nice. So definitely met with some excitement in the
Yeah.
church and even
Yes.
caused a few waves outside the church a little bit.
Yeah. It did.
And then,
So
all
I'm
right,
I'm
so
I'm traveling around and sometimes, uh, well, I speak at conferences and youth for youth groups, and so I bring these portable escape rooms with me, and people are excited about it. So it's great.
that's great. So that was you said like your start, your first sort of getting into it. Where did you, I don't know, where'd you go from there? So you have these escape rooms, they're going well, they're portable, you've taken places, you've spoke about it. So yeah, what was the next step for you?
Well, that was when I first discovered this word gamification. I had never heard about it before, but when I started building these escape rooms, I read about it, and actually I found your website and saw a lot of the videos that you have made, and got your book, and spent quite a lot of time reading about it, studying it, trying to find out what is this, and so it took me quite a while actually to study it, because that's the way I do it. So and I thought, can I use this? Can I create something for at least my local church, for my confirmation class? And so I started to write a manuscript, but I had to stop like a year ago, I think, because the whole concept of gamification was just overwhelming. But there are
Yeah, it
so
can
many
be.
ways to do it, and especially the thing about open world, that really got me and hooked me, because I thought, wow, could we do that? Could we build an open world for young people, or people in general, to explore Christianity? That would be awesome. But after a couple of months, I discovered that, whoa, that would take some serious work
Yeah,
to
so
do
just to
that.
break it, yeah, so just to break it down for some of the listeners, the game concept of like open world is where the game is really not on any sort of linear path. You don't have level one and then the boss and then level two and then the boss. It's just kind of like dropping you into a world and just say like exist, explore, earn some points, but you can kind of do whatever you want. If you want to be a bad guy and like rob a bank, you can go do that. If you want to be a good guy and like just try to get a job and function, whatever obviously the parameters of the game or the time period of the game is, but it's a non-linear path. So we could really understand why Karsten like was overwhelmed by this concept of open world. It gives the player a ton of agency, but
Oh yeah.
it's obviously hard to manage and hard to create, especially if you're talking about us creating by hand, not like have a video game that kind of takes care of it all.
Yes. Yeah, true, true. So what I did was I actually had to leave the whole project for like, I don't know, a year, a half a year maybe, because it was so overwhelming. And another thing is, I wanted to find a story. Like you've said in some of your videos, it's a good thing to find a story, or a narrative.
Sure.
Um, and I had no idea what story to use. I wanted to, first of all, take my confirmation class and gamify it, but I wanted to find a story. But then I think it's maybe couple of months ago, I watched a documentary about Roman emperors, and there was this documentary about Constantine, and I thought, wow, that's the story. That's the story I want to use, because it's so perfect as a narrative or as a story for a gamified class.
Sure. I love what you did by like one, you sort of put it down. I'm not going to say you put it away,
Mhm.
but you put it down, and you obviously were like still somewhat thinking about it because
Yes,
then months later when you saw this video it like reinvigorated you
yes,
and it was like this is the story, this is the
yeah,
idea. So that's really good that like I think it's good to put something down but not put it away. And I think it's good
Yeah.
that you picked it back up.
Yeah, true. And that's the way to do it, and that's how I do it. I get ideas, I think about it, and then I put it away, I put it down, and get back to it. And well, that's the way I write my sermons as well. So
Nice. They say there's a lot of truth to that, to being able to like put an idea down and then kind of like go outside, walk around, do something else, do a different task, and then come
yes,
back.
yeah,
So okay, so you have this game, this
yeah.
experience that you've sort of made for students. Have you put it in practice yet?
I've I did a little bit. I've just been to a VBS, a vacation Bible school, and tried some of it, and it worked just fine. It was
Nice.
for 5 days, and it got really great response. So I'm going ahead with it in 1.5 months with my confirmation class,
Nice.
and I've just designed some things to put up on the walls. I've done a logo that I'm going to put up on the classroom wall, and the scoreboard and all that, the shop, everything will be there, and I've designed it so it has this year 300 feel to it.
So with that's that's really awesome. What can you give us a little insight to maybe a little bit about the theme and a little bit about like the mechanics of your game, right? Like how like what are some of the rules? What's going to
Yeah,
happen?
sure. Well, first of all, as I said before, it was difficult to make it open world, so I had to make it very linear. And the first thing is that the students will be introduced to the story about Emperor Constantine. They will be told that he's just become emperor, but he has a problem with the Christians. He doesn't know what to do with them. Should he lock them away or whatever? And then his mother Helena becomes a Christian, and this so far this is actual
True
story.
story.
This is
Yeah.
what actually happened. She becomes a Christian, and that makes him stop and think, what is this thing? Why do people come to faith in this Christ? So he sends out legions of spies to discover more about this Christianity thing, and that's it. My students are the spies, and so they'll start discovering things and going on. They'll be on missions. I've taken my complete curriculum and rewritten it into missions and expeditions.
That's awesome. So, what's some of the language you use, if you can translate it for us into English? What's some of the language you use? So they're spies. I mean, is that
Yeah.
what you'd call them?
Yes. Yeah.
Are they in teams? So is there like a name for like the group of students that are like working together?
Well, they are legions of spies, and the first thing is they have to come up with a name for themselves. They have to give their own group a name, and then they're given a list of what they can buy in the shop. They're given 2 free bonus cards, so they can buy or get advantages during the game, the first parts of it. And well, after that, the first thing they're going to do is to get introduced to the Bible. That's actually the first mission. So I tell them, Constantine lived so and so many years after Christ, so he couldn't meet him. So where can we read things about Christ? Well, in the Bible. So that's the first mission, to get to know the Bible. And then there are missions after that. There's a mission called God's Salvation Plan. There's a mission called the Savior. And then what I also do is that there are specific dates in Constantine's story. There's this date, this year where he becomes emperor. There's a year where he gets a vision. He gets a vision. He sees the cross up in the sky and hears this voice say, "By this sign, conquer." And later on, he summons the first, what it's called. It's called the Nikean, I don't remember the name in English, but anyways, he summons a lot of priests to discuss the Trinity, because there are people claiming that Christ wasn't part of any Trinity; he was just a man. So you have these dates in events in Constantine's story, and so we follow those events and dates during the year. So, for example, in the year 312, where he sees the cross, Constantine becomes more interested in Christianity, obviously. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I say to my students, well, Constantine would love to go to a Christian worship service, but he's afraid to do it. So let's examine how a worship service looked back then in the year 300 and something. And so we're going on a camp with the students. And on that camp, they are asked to create a worship service similar to what it might have looked like in that year, 312.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we follow his story all the way through. And so when we get to the Council of Nicaea, then it's time to tell them about God as a Trinity.
That's awesome. So I have like a few follow-up questions because I
Yep.
know, I mean, your story is excellent. I love being a history teacher. I love how you're kind of letting history and those important moments and important dates sort of flow into your game and help guide you, the creator, but then obviously help the game player uh, kind of contextualize the journey they're on.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So you had mentioned one that at sort of the beginning they're able to choose a couple bonus like cards or options. Like I'm curious, like what are some of the like bonuses that somebody could get in a Christian ed sort of setting?
Well, it's the bonuses are not specifically in a Christian or church setting. It's more of a game tactic.
Oh,
Like,
sure, of course, of
yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, can we get an extra 5 minutes break or something like that? Bonuses like that, or if they lose, we have some quizzes along the way. And if they don't get enough points, they can take one of the bonus cards and get those points.
Nice. All right, so
Yeah,
they're good little like patches. And then you had mentioned kind of a shop that they could kind of
yeah.
spend. So I'm curious, that kind of brings up a couple other game mechanics that people
Hmm.
can use, like currency. So I'm going to imagine they have some like gold they can spend, some like, right, Roman coins, some denarii.
Yeah, that would be great to have Roman coins. A great idea, actually. I'll take that idea and use that. Well, I've simplified it a little bit and actually just use their XP points.
Okay.
So they get XP points for like if they come to church on a Sunday, they get XP points, and they get XP after every quiz and so on, and that's the currency. I haven't built a specific currency.
I'm going to make, like, for what it's worth, I'm going to make a suggestion that
Yep.
maybe in your situation, switching the word XP to like denarii so that like right because it will also fit with your theme. It's kind of like Constantine's paying these spies for various missions they're going on, right? So like it actually kind of works. And then if they want to buy something at the shop, to go down experience points to buy something doesn't make as much sense to say I'm going to spend some of the things that Constantine has given me to do better on future missions, right? To be a better
Yeah.
spy.
Yeah. Great idea. Great idea.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. I like the theme. I like the activities. Um, all right. So like in your experience, and with these kids that are with you, how often do you see them? Would be my next sort of question.
Yeah. That's the thing. I see them well once a week for like 1.5 hours. And that's also one of the reasons why I couldn't go through with building a complete open world game, because I only see them like 1.5 hours every week, and then during worship services on Sundays. So that puts a limit on certain things.
Well, so a question I often get from some people, in the States here that might be, I don't know, like some sort of like special class, that they only have once in a while. Like some schools have drama once a week. Some schools have, some schools teach like computer sort of coding once a week. And, people say like, I'd like to do gamification, but I can't give up that kind of time when, I only see the kids for an hour a week.
Yeah.
But in your experience, like, that's a worthy investment, right? Because I think it's
Yes,
it's making the rest of the experience that much greater, and you're able to like squeeze more out of that hour and a half that you have.
yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I decided to go through with it now this year is because my next confirmation class will be all boys. No girls, all boys. And we are in a very rural area, and they can sit still for like 5 minutes or so, and then we have to do something.
Yeah.
So that was part of my decision why I went through with it now.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think that's good to also like pay attention to the people you have in front of you. So like even my game where I don't know, I'm going on like year 8 or 9 or something like that of the game. Just because I still am doing the Realm of Nobles doesn't mean that I just pull it off the shelf and do the exact same thing. I have to be responsive to the type of kids that I have that year, and sometimes I have to make quite large adjustments. The theme stays the same, the experience is similar, but like, ooh, several game mechanics might have to change, might have to get updated. Items might have to change. I might have to add whole new items to a game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be really exciting because will be my first full year of a gamified class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell my students that this is something new. I want them to respond to what we're doing here, and tell me if this is good or bad. So,
Wow,
I'm really looking forward to it.
That's another really good tip that you're making, right? Is that involve the students, ask them, and also be honest with them. Say, hey, this is my first time, and I think that actually adds to the adventure. I think kids like that, like, oh man, like we are like the ones that are creating this experience. Like it's very inclusive, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So
one thing I hope to do at some point, maybe I'll do it later this year, is to, I don't know, build a website for the story. I would love a missiontoconstantine.com website.
Yeah.
Because you had those, you had the learning management system LMS.
Yep.
You could use maybe something like WordPress or something similar to build a website and gamify it. So I would love to have my students go home and log on to the website and have extra missions there, side expeditions.
That'd be neat. Some of the places I suggest, I don't know how international they are, but there's a website called Wix, Wix. That's a free website builder, and you can add certain features in there like password protecting certain pages. So like you could like release a code at the sermon or whatever, or at the Sunday school or wherever you want, and then like only those kids that have that code could go on that side mission on the website. So that one's a cool one to check out. And then I know this one's international, and that's Google. Google has really easy Google sites that have been like pretty nice drag and drop kind of features that you at very least could build a nice like story or portal for them to go into.
I would love that because that's part of what I do. I help people build websites in my spare time. So at some
then
point
you might not need those drag and drop features.
Let's see. So I hope to do that at some point, but that would require, well, for me that would require quite a lot of work because I would want that website to be just have everything available for them, like quizzes and videos and you name it.
Sure. Well, we are almost out of time, so we're on to our reflection time. Are you ready to hear today's quote?
Yes.
So today's quote comes from a man named Bern Williams, and it says, "Man never made any material as resilient as the human spirit." How does
Oh,
that fit with like your breakout boxes and what you've already tested with your Constantine game?
great, great. Good question. What I find is that gamification and playing games, it does something to people. It's that their imagination, that people want to play, and they want to experience, they want to open things and say, oh, what's inside this? Wow, and where
So
does
do.
that lead to, and so on. So I find that gamification is or playing games and being creative is a great way to stir people's imaginations and to well, actually, I could say also as a pastor to stir people's souls.
You can say that as a pastor.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. I really love it. In my experience, gamification definitely produces a resilient spirit inside us. Like kids, adults, whoever you do this with, if it's a well-designed experience, you're so present in that experience that you can't help but get up and continue the activity until you succeed. And it's neat to see, and I absolutely love it.
Great. Great.
So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Well played. I think we're gonna have you back on. I want to hear how this goes and in your year.
Yeah.
I know others are gonna want to hear how it's going. I think it's so neat that you applying this system, which can truly be applied to kind of anywhere, but it's really fun to like chit chat with somebody that's really using it in a different context in a different space.
Yeah. Great. Great. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Everyone else, thank you so much for listening to another well played podcast. Again, go over to hivesummit.org and sign up, as this week, Thursday, it launches. If you're catching this episode after August 1st, it runs August 1st through the 14th, so you can still sign up then. And if it's after that, you could still go over to Hive Summit and sign up so that you are all set for next year's summit, because that'll automatically put you on the list for next year, and then you're in, and it's going to be fantastic. Everyone, enjoy your week and play on.